What's going on, boxing fans? This is going to be a 2-for-1 video. This is my fight prediction of Roy Jones Jr. versus Bernard Hopkins, match 2, aka the caveman fight, or old man versus old man, old geezer versus old geezer. What can I say? This fight should have taken place, cliche, 5 or 6 years ago. Basically, personally, this is how I look at things. Bernard Hopkins is 45 years old, a future Hall of Famer, great fighter. Roy's a great fighter. You have speed and athleticism versus a technician, a boxer. Bernard Hopkins he said it best himself. He said Roy Jones is special, and what he meant by that was he was able to skip over a lot of fundamentals in the sport of boxing because of his uniqueness. A lot of fighters, some fighters are unique. I, for one, I have friends that box. I'm gonna do a couple interviews with them, and I got a couple friends that's pro. But it's certain things you can't teach a boxer in the sport. Certain things that they do instinctive. I believe something like reflexes, timing, you can refine it, but you can't necessarily teach it. Just like when a person becomes a boxer, or if you started off boxing at 6 years old, you don't start off and say, I'm going to be a hard puncher, or I'm going to be a fast fighter. That stuff is determined the longer you're in the sport, by you watching other fighters and you mimicking them, and by just your style of fighting. It'll become obvious what is your strength and what you need to build your arsenal around. And Roy was that type of fighter. He was unique as far as speed, quickness, sharpness. He got away with things. His left hook, for one. His left hook is not even like a traditional left hook. It's like almost like a whip. Like he throws it like a whip. That's something that you can't teach a fighter. That's something that they do. They refine themselves. But back to the fight. Bernard Hopkins is like a fine wine. He's got better with age. He's got a lot better. Roy Jones his career has deteriorated over the years. My personal opinion, just like everybody else, everybody would have loved to see him retire after the first Tarver fight. But then again, in hindsight, hell, he probably wish he did too. I mean, because that's when everything went downhill. But not giving his body time to recover and those things, those played a factor in it. But I also feel like that Antonio Tarver was just Roy's poison. He just had his style. He had his number. But if you look at what they've accomplished, they're both Hall of Fame fighters, so we can't, but Roy is on a downhill slide. He's basically he's being put in the position of Muhammad Ali, in my opinion. How he's just deteriorated. One thing I will say, a lot of people criticize defensive fighters like Mayweather, Kaladi, or whoever's defensive, Abraham. But one thing you gotta say about those is fighters that usually are, and Bernard, fighters that are usually defensive and are, great boxers, they tend to last longer. They have longevity in the sport. Defensive skills. Usually fast fighters that hit, fast fighters that with great offense, little defense, or little fundamentals, they don't last long in the sport. I mean, like like a fighter like Pacquiao. Pacquiao's excellent for the sport, but he wouldn't have a long career like Bernard because of his lack of defensive skills. And that's just how it is. Roy, he lacks defensive skills. He's pretty much, and then once he's put into defense mode, he's pretty much just open for the taking. His reflexes aren't there to move, to pivot, to move out of the way. They're not there anymore. So it's almost like he don't know what to do. His defense is poor. He just puts his hands up, and it's like you can do whatever you want to do to him. This fight, I honestly feel like Bernard Hopkins has a very, it's almost like he's bitter. He's mad at what Roy was given, because he feels that Roy was, everything that was given to Roy was handed to him, and everything that he was given was hard. He had to work for. It's kind of like two brothers that are mad. One is mad because the other brother got everything from the parents and shit, which would be like HBO. He got everything was handed to him. Everything seemed, it was easier laid out for him. While this brother had to fucking work and starve, and slave and all that. That's how Bernard feels to get where he is. So it's kind of like that. He's bitter. That's just that's the best way to put it. Bernard is bitter because of Roy Jones' accomplishments. So I feel like he purposely sets his sights on outdoing. He tries to outdo Roy in any way possible. He had already beat Glenn Johnson. So he went after Tarver. Then he beats Tarver rather easily. Okay, and then Roy fights Danny Green, and Danny Green stopped Roy at the first round. And then he was talks about him fighting Danny Green. It was like, what did Roy do next? If Roy goes and fights fucking Klitschko, then you gonna go next and try to prove that I'm better? That's how I feel about Bernard, and so I feel like Bernard will not rest until he beats Roy. He feels he has to beat him. And in this fight, Roy Jones was one of my favorite fighters. He's one of the main reasons why I got into sport, to like it as much as I did. I mean, Superman. If you're a real fan, you can appreciate him. You look at his downslide, but you appreciate all the good that he did in the sport. He was like Superman in his prime. But over the years, it seems like I was actually hurt. Like, I mean, some real shit. Like, I felt it here when Roy lost to Tarver that second round and he hit him. It was like here. I was like, oh shit. Like, because like you seeing Superman get killed. Superman's down. And then, I didn't like the Glenn shit either. But I feel like he should hang him up. I feel like he doesn't have him anymore. So if you understand where I'm going with this, you know who I'm picking to win this fight. I feel like Bernard's desire and his determination will not allow him to lose this fight. He's not going to lose it. I don't see a knockout happening because Bernard's not a big knockout puncher, but I just don't see Roy having the desire. I feel like he's just fighting because he has people around him that are yes men, that are saying, yeah, Roy, you still have it. Yeah, Roy, one more fight. Yeah, Roy, come back. Yeah, Roy, you didn't, they cheated you that fight. Yeah, Roy, I mean, and it should be becoming apparent. Roy Jones can beat a C-class fighter, He can beat a Jeff Lacey because he's a C-class fighter. That's where Roy's at now. But anybody that's, I would say, B and above, B-A class elite fighters, Roy is not there, and he will lose. And so basically, I see this fight going to a 12-round unanimous decision for Bernard Hopkins. Based on that fact alone, I feel like his career has deteriorated and he doesn't have it anymore. I don't know why he's fighting. I mean, like I said, maybe his people, his camp around him, but he shouldn't be fighting. I feel it's dangerous to his health. But, like I said, I'm going to say 12-round unanimous decision for B-Hop. Peace.